Hey everybody, I'm back with a new video, part 3 to the last week's reaction video to the Explainer Comics video, Every Woke Comic. So yeah, leave a comment below, let me know what you guys think, and let me know if you agree of his assessment. But now we're going to be checking out Every Woke Comic Hated by Fans, part 3. So, bring this up to full screen. Here we go.
Naomi. DC put all its chips on Naomi. Brand new hero, all new mythology. She was positioned as the next big thing in the DC universe. Brian Michael Bendis and David F. Walker co-created her with full backing from editorial, launching in 2019 under the Wonder Comics imprint. And for a second, it worked. Issue number 1 sold out. DC gave her a JLA invite by her 6th issue. But here's where it got weird. The first 6-issue arc spent most of its time on vague teases. Naomi lived in a quiet town, had adoptive parents, and mysterious headaches. A Superman flyby caused some kind of disruption. Then came backstory, then more backstory, then another info dump. By the time her powers actually activated, readers had flipped through entire issues of exposition, dream sequences, and characters saying things like, "You're special, but not ready." The book got a season 2 in 2022, but the drop-off was brutal. Issue number 1 sold less than half of what season 1 did. Fans said Naomi had no defined personality, just constant reminders of how important she might be later. Dialogue was clunky, pacing crawled, and while her design and powers looked cool, there was never a solid villain or plot to anchor her. Then the CW show dropped, and tanked. Bad reviews, low ratings, and cancellation after 1 season. Instead of boosting the comic, it buried the brand. Today, Naomi barely appears in team books and hasn't had a solo issue since. The new champion.
Yeah, I reviewed the Naomi comic early last year for around Black History Month, because I mean you can check out my in-depth review there, but as I stated, there was an idea, not to purposely quote Nick Fury, but there was an idea there, but it seems like they was trying to it's like the creator, because a lot of these creators of these particular characters, in case you don't know, not a lot of these comic book writers get that much money from comics itself, but it only for either autograph signings from cons or something like that, or if a TV show or a movie decides to turn them into a live action thing, and they will get bank from that. So Naomi seems like the writer and creator was trying to that's why they call it seasons. They're trying to prop it in a particular way to here's a clear setup for a particular season, and each issue could be a mini short season. And it's just you're trying to cut corners, and you don't have a defined power set. She's adopted. She was from a different universe. The villain of that other universe, because she's clearly some kind of Superman allegory. It's she came from this different universe, landing in a DC universe, and you check my review, I had the image posted up. This supposed villain is supposed to be probably her arch villain, uniquely tied to her. It's so vague. It's some shadowy and vague tentacle thing, and it's you didn't commit anything. You just kind of left it vague enough so if this gets picked up and carried forward by a movie or a TV show, then the writers of that show can just fill in whatever gaps you want, instead of just defining a particular villain that you can say I made this villain. And it's unique, when he made the Flash, his villain Captain Cold, clearly defined Leonard Snart, like a heist type of villain with a cold gun that goes absolute zero, tailor made to stop things from moving or vibrating, is just stuck in place. Has like a thing, very good foil for somebody like the Flash. Naomi doesn't have anything like that. Everything is so vague with her, and her friends, her quote unquote support is not defined either. There's no Jimmy Olsen type. There's no Captain Gordon type. Nothing. It's just clearly just some kind of vague setup for a potential, a hopeful potential, somebody to pick it up to turn into a TV show so they can gain some revenue. And it's just a shame because you put in the work to make this character look good. This character look good in the comic, but what is her power set is like energy based? What? Like I said, it's very confusing. You didn't commit.
Marvel rebooted Champions in 2020 with a clear mission:
She's just
turn
a
their teen
mouthpiece,
squad into
pretty
symbols of modern activism. The team, Kamala Khan, Miles Morales, Riri Williams, and others, was thrown into a storyline about Kamala's Law, a national crackdown on underage superheroes. The government labeled them as threats. Protest scenes filled the pages. Hashtags, banners, and speeches took over the panels. By the end of issue 1, fans knew something was off. The new volume launched during a tense real-world political climate. Instead of easing readers in, the book jumped headfirst into social commentary, skipping the fun, fast-paced team dynamic that made earlier Champions arcs work. Pages were loaded with exposition. Characters delivered monologues mid-battle. Riri gave TED Talks. Kamala sounded like a spokesperson for fictional civil.
And that is like a big issue with a lot of these comics. It's just like, you shouldn't have your characters just be generic mouthpieces and, making big grandiose speeches. It's a superhero comic. I'm not saying like you can't have those things, but it's just like, if that is the main crux of your book, then it gets very boring. It's a superhero comic first and foremost. Instead, you just like using them to like make political statements, and that's why you get like negative terms like woke. There's certain these shields on the internet, thinking like we people say that stuff unironically or whatever, like we're crazy or something like that. If you look at this, you cannot tell me that this is like a poor use of a comic book character. They're supposed to beat up bad guys. That's the main point of a comic. Yes, every once in a while they have some kind of theme or some arc they go on, but that honestly should be secondary.
Rights reform. Even Viv Vision got in on it with AI ethics. The art by Luciano Vecchio had energy, but the script dragged it down. Critics called it timely. Fans called it homework. Reviews highlighted a bigger issue. Every team member felt like a walking message.
Lectured.
They weren't solving mysteries, fighting villains, or evolving as characters. They were doing press conferences and outrunning curfews.
And that's what they utilize a lot of these younger superheroes in the past few years. Because like, the old generation of superheroes aren't with it. We can use these new generations to talk about real. It's the same thing with those activists on those college campuses, going on and on about Gaza or whatever. And make those because every generation has those kind of things. Like Vietnam War, they got a bunch of kids back then, doing protests and what have you. But there's a certain degree of obnoxiousness in this generation of young 20-somethings. There's not all of them, but there's a significant amount of them that's like, get with it, grandpa. It's like, if you ain't down for, LGBTQIA TV MTC, then you're a bigot and like no nobody got, you should just die out, move. It's just like all that stuff, and they're using these younger characters. It's fine to make new characters, but don't just use them, create them just for the sake of pushing political movements. I'm pretty sure they did with Riri Williams. They did with like Miles Morales every once in a while. They do it with Kamala Khan a lot of the times. Like for the bulk of the champions that did that stuff. And it's just like, and most of the younger X-Men, it's just like, y'all superheroes. Just beat up bad guys. Solve mysteries. And once you cultivated a loyal fan base and earn your stripes, you have the carte blanche at a certain point to talk about certain serious natures. Static Shock, perfect example. He didn't start out, he had like moments about like gun violence in the first episode, like gang activity, but that had like a good symbiosis with the main story of when he got his powers. But it isn't like an everyday thing where he got to lecture the audience about, don't join a gang because they ain't cool kind of attitude. When you talk about race with his best friend's father, who was kind of like a bigot, that what felt earned because that wasn't an everyday kind of thing in the show. It happened when it needed to happen, and when it did, it held weight to it. Because it didn't feel like a lecture. And it kept it vague enough where you can trust the audience to form their own opinions rather than, this is how you should think kind of thing. Because if you don't think this way, you're the bad guy. That is what people don't like in general.
Sales dropped steadily from issue to issue. By number 5, it was near cancellation territory. Marvel didn't even build a major arc around it afterward. No tie-ins, no spin-offs, just quiet fade-out. Wonder Woman, Tempest Tossed. DC released Tempest Tossed in June 2020 as part of its YA graphic novel line. Written by best-selling author Laurie Halsey Anderson, it reimagined Wonder Woman as a teenage refugee. On her 16th birthday, Diana gets caught in a storm and swept off Themyscira, straight into modern-day U.S. immigration chaos. From the first few pages, it was clear this wasn't going to be a story about gods, monsters, or invisible jets. Diana gets detained at a refugee camp. She's processed by Border Patrol. She meets trafficked children and activist social workers. For readers expecting Amazonian action or any ties to classic Wonder Woman mythology, this felt like reading a completely unrelated political drama where Diana just happened to be the lead. Critics praised the grounded tone. Fans, especially longtime Wonder Woman readers, were confused. Themyscira was gone within 10 pages. No powers, no armor, just public transit, bureaucracy, and real-world metaphors stacked onto every panel. The art by Leila Del Duca had a sketchbook softness, which fit the YA angle, but didn't deliver on any of the iconic visuals that fans associate with Diana. Lasso of Truth? Absent. Olympian stakes? Nowhere in sight. Despite media buzz and strong pre-orders, Tempest Tossed didn't stick with readers. It faded from the conversation within weeks and hasn't been referenced in any major DC title since. Green Lantern? Far Sector. When DC introduced Joe Moline in Far Sector, the pitch was bold.
That was her last
brand new Green Lantern, an outsider investigating a murder mystery in a far-off cyberpunk city. Writer N.K. Jemisin, a Hugo Award-winning novelist, led the series with art by Jamal Campbell. On paper, it sounded like prestige storytelling. In comic shops, readers had questions. Right from the jump, Joe's ring didn't work like the others. It didn't need to recharge. It had limited energy but no battery. It operated on vibes and backstory. Readers combed through issues trying to understand the rules. And DC didn't offer much help. The focus wasn't on Lantern Corps lore. It was politics, identity, and commentary about surveillance states and emotional regulation. Joe had presence. Her design was sleek. Her backstory involved police brutality, protests, and military service. Heavy topics for a superhero debut, but every issue was loaded with dense dialogue, internal monologues, and philosophical debates. The murder mystery slowed to a crawl, and action scenes took a back seat. By the time Far Sector wrapped, reviews were split. Critics praised it as ambitious. Fans said they were exhausted. When Joe later joined the main Green Lantern run in 2021, sales were already dropping. Hal, John, and Kyle got shoved aside. Joe took center stage, but readers didn't follow. The series didn't connect with longtime Lantern fans or new readers. Joe was built up to be a next-gen icon. Instead, she became a symbol of what happens when you strip away everything familiar and forget to replace it with something equally compelling. Nubia and the Amazons. In 2021, DC gave Nubia her long overdue spotlight. The first Black Amazon, a legacy character dating back to the 70s, now promoted as Queen of Themyscira with her own series, her own court, and a big role in Future State. The timing lined up with DC's push for broader representation, and the company leaned in. Variant covers, media buzz, critical applause before issue 1 even dropped. The book opened with a magical well of souls, literally. New Amazons were emerging from it with fresh identities and backstories, including trans and queer characters. The premise had scope, but readers looking for epic stakes and sharp plotting didn't get far before the pace hit a wall. Issue after issue stalled in palace dialogue. Page after page focused on internal debates, gentle affirmations, and cautious leadership. Themyscira became a discussion circle. Characters stood around telling each other how important they were, without doing much. There was no real villain, no crisis, just metaphors wrapped in long speeches. The art by Aletha Martinez had warmth, but the panels felt static. Fight scenes were brief and forgettable. Even Nubia, meant to carry the whole thing, had little agency. Fans who wanted to see her rise...
Cool design, not a bad idea. She seems like a badass character. But if all your story centered around her is just talking circles and vibes and, you know, and no real villain, just, I mean, you can do like a story without like a real villain, but if the story is not compelling and just talking things out, then what are we even doing? It's a comic book. We want to see our hero or whatever main character do something, go into an adventure, solve a mystery, have like a threat, whether metaphorically, internally, or externally, but some kind of threat. But it's just like, you know, just the same old kind of crap that's just like, it's like why bother?
As a warrior queen, watched her deliver speeches and nod through ceremonies. Sales dipped quickly after launch. By issue 6, the book faded from DC's mainline slate. Nubia still appears in crossovers, but
because she could be like, you know, DC's version of Storm if they played it properly. Good design, but no follow through, no execution, none of that. Just a cool design.
Solo title that was supposed to redefine her legacy ended with barely a ripple. Somnus. In 2021, Marvel hyped up a brand new character for its Pride anthology, his name being Somnus, a gay, time-bending mutant from the past who'd been erased from X-Men history until now. Before anyone read a panel, press releases were everywhere. Outlets called him a milestone. Marvel ran spotlight features. The costume was flashy, the quotes were carefully curated. It seemed like a marketing event. Then the issue dropped. Somnus appeared in a 7-page story written by Steve Orlando. He used dream powers, had a mysterious past with Daken, and got welcomed into Krakoa.
What the? Dream powers? Are you serious? You go with dream powers. That is the most... You could have at least made it something like Freddy Krueger or something if you want to go with dream powers. God. And don't get me started on the whole Daken thing that's made him like bisexual or something like that. I don't even know when the heck that happened. Oh my God, the comics are so dumb. They can be so dumb sometimes. Oh my God.
Koa. It looked like the start of something big. Fans waited for the follow-up. It never came. Somnus didn't get a solo. He didn't show up in X-Men titles. He wasn't added to any teams. He didn't even cameo during mutant-wide crossover events. Readers started asking why Marvel introduced a character with fanfare and interviews, then forgot he existed. Behind the scenes, even the creative team seemed surprised. In interviews months later, Orlando admitted there were no long-term plans. Somnus was introduced specifically for the Pride special, and that was it. Critics praised the intention. Readers pointed out the pattern. Marvel had now introduced multiple LGBTQ+ characters in anthologies, hyped them briefly, and let them disappear. Somnus became the case study. Future State Gotham. DC's Future State event promised bold reinventions. In Gotham, Bruce Wayne was presumed dead, the city was under authoritarian control, and the Batmantle had passed to Jace Fox, Lucius Fox's son. Future State. Gotham picked up that timeline and tried to carry the torch. What fans got instead was grayscale artwork, minimalist dialogue, and a Batbook that barely flickered. The entire series was printed in black and white, not stylized noir, and just black and white. The decision was pitched as a creative experiment. For many readers, it read like an unfinished draft. Gotham's usually moody skyline turned flat. Fight scenes felt weightless. And for a story about rebellion, nothing ever looked urgent. Jace Fox as Batman had promise. His suit was modern, and his approach was different. But over 18 issues, readers struggled to connect. The scripts were sparse. Plots looped around bureaucracy, drones, and the magistrate, a police force that somehow made every issue feel slower. Bruce eventually returned to the story, but even that didn't boost interest. The biggest problem was that it felt isolated. Future State. Gotham didn't tie into other Batbooks. There were no major villains, no crossover hooks, and no real evolution. Jace had a spotlight, but nothing to do with that stuck. The book ran longer than expected, but without momentum or conversation. When it finally ended, DC didn't spin Jace into a flagship title. The Fox family storyline faded, and the Gotham readers remembered went back to Bruce, Dick, and Damian. Reptile. Marvel gave Reptile his first solo series in 2021. He'd shown up before in Avengers Academy, made a few appearances in cartoons, and had a cool hook, a teenage hero who could turn into dinosaurs.
He kind of reminds me, at least the way he shapeshifts, kind of reminds me of that raptor from Killer Instinct. That's what he reminds me of.
Easy sell, right? Instead, the book launched quietly, limped through 4 issues, and vanished without a trace. From the start, it was clear the creative team wanted to highlight Reptile's Latinx identity. The story centered around family, heritage, and discovering the origins of his powers. But the superhero part was barely there. The villains were forgettable, action scenes felt rushed, and most of the dialogue was exposition about identity and ancient magic. The tone leaned into after-school special territory. Panels were loaded with narration. Reptile didn't evolve much. He already had powers. He didn't face a major threat. The stakes were low across the board. Even the visuals handled by Enid Balam had charm, but lacked the punch Marvel fans were used to. By issue 2, fans online were calling it lukewarm. By issue 4, the series ended quietly without setup for anything bigger. No team invites, no crossovers, no tease for future arcs. Marvel made no announcement about where Reptile would go next, and readers didn't ask. Monkey Prince. DC launched Monkey Prince in 2022 with serious ambition. Inspired by the legendary Journey to the West, Marcus Sun was introduced as the son of the Monkey King, a trickster hero with shape-shifting powers and ancient magic. Jean Lewin Yang wrote it. Bernard Chung handled the art. DC promoted it as part of their Lunar New Year celebration. The plan was clear. Global mythology meets the DC universe. But once the book hit shelves, things got weird. The series tried to juggle ancient Chinese folklore, high school hijinks, and cameos from Batman, Aquaman, and other DC regulars. The tone bounced between prank comedy and generational trauma. Readers couldn't tell if it was a full-on epic or a sidekick origin with jokes. One issue had Marcus battling shadow demons. The next had him dodging detention. Even with stunning character designs and some sharp visuals, the plot meandered. The pacing stalled in the middle arcs. Dialogue leaned on awkward teen banter and exposition about magical bloodlines. The crossover moments with Batman and Shazam didn't add much. They just reminded fans that Monkey Prince was floating on the outskirts of a universe that didn't really need him. 12 issues came and went. Sales weren't strong. Buzz didn't build. The book wrapped with a mild cliffhanger, but DC didn't announce any follow-up. No tie-ins, no miniseries, no event. Thunderbolts. In 2022, Marvel brought back the Thunderbolts name, a title with decades of history usually known for edgy lineups, reformed villains, and unpredictable energy. This time the team was led by Hawkeye, backed by characters like America Chavez, Spectrum, Power Man, and a new telepath named Gutson Glory. Marvel sold it as a fresh take. New York City needed a new official team after Wilson Fisk outlawed vigilantes in Devil's Reign. The Thunderbolts were supposed to fill that void, but the series had a problem right away. No one felt like a Thunderbolt. The lineup lacked grit. There was no internal conflict, no moral gray area, and no standout rogue among them. The mission boiled down to doing good in the public eye, with managers, press conferences, and stage directions. Clint Barton cracked jokes. America looked bored. The new characters barely got fleshed out. Art by Sean Isaacsy was clean and dynamic, but the tone clashed with the legacy. Instead of street-level chaos, fans got choreographed action and PR debriefs. Writer Jim Zub leaned into sitcom-style banter, but the stakes never escalated. Each issue felt like a soft reset. Mission, punchline, done. Sales didn't hold. The book ran 5 issues, then closed up shop without a major cliffhanger. None of the new characters broke out. The Thunderbolts name returned and disappeared, without leaving a mark. X-Men Green. The same year, 2022, Marvel released X-Men Green as a digital first mini on Marvel Unlimited. It starred Nature Girl, a background mutant with plant-based powers, who snapped, literally. After witnessing environmental destruction, she stabbed a man in the neck with a plastic straw and went rogue across the globe. That was page 1. The story followed Nature Girl and fellow mutant Curse as they launched an eco-extremist crusade against humanity's pollution. They stole a Krakoan gate, traveled across countries, and took down oil rigs, meat factories, and corporate offices, all in the name of mutant kind and the environment. But instead of tension or nuance, fans got a cartoonish morality tale. Every human character was written like a stock villain. Dialogue was stuffed with slogans. There was little pushback from other mutants, and the series treated Nature Girl's spiral like a quirky side mission. The digital format didn't help. Each issue was short and structured for scrolling, not pacing. Scenes cut quickly, fights were minimal, and stakes never escalated. Art by Alberto Foch and others was serviceable, but never elevated the premise. Longtime X-Men fans called it one of the strangest Krakoa-era stories, not because of the concept, but because of how disconnected it felt from the main books. The series ended quietly. Nature Girl was captured, Curse got a slap on the wrist, and X-Men Green vanished from Marvel's roadmap. Blood Syndicate Season 1. This one was a cornerstone of the original Milestone line in the 90s, a gritty, unapologetic super team formed by survivors of the Big Bang event in Dakota. Gang members turned meta-humans. Real stakes, raw attitude. This time, Season 1 came with a modern relaunch, written by Jeffrey Thorne with art by Chris Cross and Will Quintana. Everything about the pitch screamed momentum, updated designs, a veteran writer who worked on Green Lantern, and a clear mission to bring Blood Syndicate into the current era. But when readers cracked it open, something was missing. The new version leaned heavily into world building but left tension on the back burner. Much of the early run focused on philosophy, dialogue-heavy debates, and backstory catch-up. The team didn't come together until deep into the arc. Meanwhile, the street-level energy that made the original series feel dangerous got cleaned up into controlled conversations. The art had moments of flair, but never pushed beyond serviceable. Action scenes lacked grit. Characters like Wise Sun and Tech-9 returned, but without the raw edge that defined them. New characters weren't given space to stand out, and even fans familiar with Milestone lore had trouble finding the hook. Sales were quiet, buzz faded. Season 1 wrapped after 6 issues with no announcement of a follow-up. Static and Icon got more attention, Blood Syndicate got left behind, and that's it. Now, to you, if these comics were trying to reshape the future, what does it say when readers keep turning back to the past? Are fans rejecting change, or just craving stories that actually hit harder than the headlines? Share your thoughts in the comments section.
Now let's see what the comments say. Critics said it was bold. Readers said it was terrible and they just want good stories and not a lecture. Agreed. Naomi, we need more black female superheroes. Make her an alien. Give her an undescribed power set. Don't worry about a story. This is about showing the world that women / alien can do anything a man can do, but better. I was doubting why I even bothered reading the comic. I think the idea is literally not everyone is gay. Extremely overrepresented in modern comics. Yeah. They really, like, if you look it up, the amount of, comic characters that are part of the LGBTQ community, I bet you a good chunk of those were just haphazardly put into the whole category, like Tim Drake and Iceman, when they historically was straight people. And then touting characters like that kid with the dream powers. It's like if you're not even committing because you're just trying to get brownie points, like, look, we are with you guys. You're a company. At the end of the day, you're trying to make money. So it doesn't even matter. But you're clearly trying to make profit off of gay people by showing them like, look, we got somebody who's trans or a lesbian. Like, let's highlight this for this particular month, and then quietly back away as the next month slips in. Pathetic. I cringe so hard at the word Latinx. The proper word is Latino. Don't get it twisted. Thank you. None of my Hispanic friends like that term Latinx. They are really bothered by that. It's like I got secondhand bothered by it, but they are really bothered by it. And I doubt any Gen Zers call themselves Latinx. Maybe 5% at best out of all the Gen Zers will refer to themselves as Latinx. I'm pretty sure if they talk with their older family members, they'll look at them like they're crazy. Notice how all these new work comic characters don't use superhero sounding names and instead use their real names. Reptile, Monkey Prince had the potential to be so much better, but Marvel and DC did them dirty. Reptile was actually created from Marvel's superhero squad. I can see that. They're using artwork from about 5 different Thunderbolt teams other than the one they're actually talking about. Where's Gotham High, the hilarious reworking of the Batman saga as Twilight teen romance focusing on the Catwoman as Bella, the Joker as Jacob, and Bruce Wayne as Agent Edward? Don't know about that. I read Green Lantern Far Sector, not to hit spoiler territory, but the environment is everyone has their emotions suppressed except for GL. There's a drug out there that let people feel emotions. It might or might not have led to the first murder in 500 years. That would have been all fine and good, but there were so many problems with understanding the story you got lost. One species in this, not world, because technically it is multiple space stations, area is completely made up of computer code. Another is a flying kind that is close to being human. Another is some kind of carnivorous plant humanoid. The GL ring is the real problem because it needs to recharge, but it recharges slowly sometimes, and not one really bothers to explain how. Also, this GL has a fear of flying, which somehow gets resolved, and is interested in other women, which, since she's the only human, gets weird. The worst part is the solution of the mystery of the dead person is dumb. It is barely coherent. We're not talking Sherlock Holmes here or even Magnum P.I. Don't bother reading this. Yeah, Jesus. What is up with, the editors of these comic book companies? And you can't just say, no, we're not having this crap. Grow some balls. Anyway, that's pretty much it. What do you guys think? It's I'm not sure. Is there a particular comic you're looking at right now or reading right now? You saying this is crap. I don't know what they're doing with this. Let me know in the comments below. Man, this is why I've been very choosy on what kind of comics that I'm choosing to read or just dropping altogether when it just reach to the edge of nonsense and I'm just backing away. Anyway, I will see you guys in a few minutes. I got one more video that I want to do before I call it. But like I said, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you all soon.